coming over for dinner tonight. You should wear something nice. Wear your blue shirt. You looks great in that blue shirt. Shane?
Yep. Yeah. Wear the shirt. I got it.
The blue shirt.
Blue shirt.
Not any shirt. And don't wear jeans, all right? What's so funny, Shane?
Oh, nothing. You wouldn't understand.
And what does this word mean? What does this word?
I don't know.
You don't know? This word?
Behavioral? Something? Yeah.
Behavioral. Shane, stop playing with your phone. Shane.
Hey, Shane.
Hey, I'll be right there. Bye, Mom.
Shane!
Becoming less interested in one's parents and more interested in other people is a natural part of growing up. But what causes this behavioral shift? Scientists at Stanford University have recently discovered one way that the brain encourages this change. Scientists monitored the brains of a group of young people while their mothers read out several nonsense words. Then they did the same thing, but with strangers reading the words instead. The brains of children aged 12 and under became highly active at the sound of their mothers' voices.
Welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Hanny.
Hello, everybody. I am Shane.
And for this month, our Cloze test, we got an article titled
Sorry, Mom, not interested.
Sorry, Mom, not interested. 就是说，妈咪对不起，我不感兴趣啦。好，我们来看看到底是怎么回事，为什么会讲出这句话。
Okay.
So, let's start reading.
Becoming less interested in one's parents and more interested in other people is a natural part of growing up.
Right,
I
it's
agree.
true.
Yes, for sure.
But what causes this behavioral blank? 好，我们刚刚看到一个变化，一个这个发展哦，然后他就说，题目一直说，但是啊，什么导致这种行为的？空格，那句子里面这个 behavioral 其实就是 behavior 的形容词，去形容行为的、行为研究的。这边考我们单字，我们来看选项喽。Our options are
A. Logic.
就是逻辑性或是思维方式。
B. Cycle.
循环周期，它也有自行车的意思哦。
C. Shift.
Shift 就是改变。
D. Burden.Burden
表示负担啊、包袱或者是负荷。那课文前一句就有提到说，对父母越来越不感兴趣，对其他人越来越感兴趣。那这是成长中很自然的一部分哦。对父母跟其他人感兴趣程度消长，这是一种改变啊、转变。然后我们再偷看空格下一句，它也有说，科学家发现是大脑促使这种变化、这种 change。所以上下文可以推断空格就是跟改变有关啦。那适合答案选 C shift。And the correct sentence would be
But what causes this behavioral shift?
What causes this change?
Right.
So,
scientists at Stanford University have recently discovered one way that the brain encourages this change.
Oh, it has to do with our brain.
Yeah, something's wrong with teenagers' brains, that's for sure.
Probably. So let's continue reading.
Scientists monitored the brains of a group of young people while their mothers read out several nonsense words.
Okay, so nonsense words. Okay, here we got two vocabulary words. They're not nonsense words.
No, these are not nonsense words, but maybe one of the words is nonsense.
Okay, we'll wait. And then the first one is monitor.
Monitor.
好 ，monitor 它本来当名词啊，它有这种荧幕显示器或者是监视仪器的意思，可是在这边当动词，Yeah, it's a verb.
So as a verb, it means to watch, observe, listen to, or check, like something, right, for a special purpose. So you're going to look at this thing for a period of time, or listen to it, and you're going to observe it.
哦，所以有点类似观察感觉，那它就是去监测、去监控、去监督。
Yes.
Right. 好，那我们来造个例句。
For example, you can say, this machine can monitor heart rates. So it's going to observe the heart beating over time
Yeah.
and observe if there's a change or what's happening. So to monitor it.
So it's a heart rate monitor, right?
Right.
Okay, the next vocabulary word is nonsense.
So this word is nonsense.
Yes.
But it's not nonsense, but it is.
老师，你不要再让大家困惑了。它可以当一个形容词或名词哦。那我们来看看什么意思。
So basically, it just means language that has no meaning.
Like 嘎啦嘎啦不啦
Yeah, or beep, bop, bloop, bloopity, boop, bop.
嘎啦。
So really, it's just like words, ideas that just are a little bit silly or foolish or just not true.
Right， 所以它可以用来形容它是无意义的啊、荒谬的，或者是去描述是无意义的语言啊、胡扯或是谬论。所以如果我们说 somebody is talking nonsense，
Clip clop?
he is talking nonsense， 他在胡说八道，在乱说话这样。OK， 我们造一个正经的例句好不好？
Okay, no nonsense ones, a real one. Okay, the author used many nonsense words in her children's book.
Right, okay, continuing.
Then they did the same thing, but with strangers, blank, the words instead.
好，题目意思是接着他们做同样的事，但改以陌生人来空格这些单词。那以下4个选项会是动词 read 它的不同变化哦。那么 read 就有读出或是朗读的意思。我们来看选项 ，Our options are
A, read or read. B, reading. C, to read. D, and read or and read.
Right.
Okay.
注意这个 read， 它有可能是现在式或过去式哦，会有不同发音。
That's English, so fun.
题目就写到说 ，They did the same thing， 他们做同样的事，然后写说 but with 点点点 instead， 就是说但改以怎么样怎么样。我们从句子判断，就是说后半段它是在附带说明，所以这边的 with strangers 空格 the words， 其实应该就是用 with 加受词加受词补语的句型表达。老师听起来是很复杂。
Sounds really complicated.
好啦，那我们刚刚说 with 加受词加受词补语，这个受词补语呢，我们可以用形容词啊、分词或是介系词片语。那你要用分词，就是判断受词跟这个补语关系。主动我们就用 VING， 被动就用 PP。好，那题目里面 with 后面受词 strangers。这边补语我们就要填入 read 分词，因为陌生人读这个单字，它不是被朗读，他们是主动读出来，这是主动的关系，所以我们用 reading。All right. So
Breathe, breathe.
好，正确答案要选 B reading. So the correct sentence would be.
Take a break, I'll read. Okay.
All right.
Then they did the same thing, but with strangers reading the words instead.
啊，所以本来是妈妈念，然后后来再换成陌生人念，我们要看看有什么差别，对不对？
Yes, let's check it out. Okay, so the brains of children aged 12 and under became highly active at the sound of their mother's voices.
Oh,
Okay.
so when they heard the voice and then, wow, mommy, it's
Oh,
mommy.
it's mommy's voice. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah.
I wonder what the results are about the teenagers.
Yeah, so if you're over 12 years old, I'm sure there's definitely going to be a change.
Meh, something like that. Anyway, let's take a break now and then we'll come back and read more.
Okay.
In contrast, the brains of children aged 13 and older reacted more strongly when they heard a stranger's voice. The study's authors concluded that teenagers find strangers' voices more worthy of attention because teenagers' brains have begun prioritizing their social connections outside of the home. For mothers of teenagers, this phenomenon can be frustrating as their previously attentive children suddenly stop listening to a word they say. As the study shows, however, mothers shouldn't take it personally. Teenage brains are simply wired differently.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
So before the break, some scientists at Stanford are experimenting on children.
Oh,
Children experimentation.
besides children, there are also teenagers, I
Yeah,
guess.
but
so-
before the break, there were just 12 and under, right?
Right,
They
right.
found out when they hear their mother's voice, their brains light up. They get active,
Right.
So what's going to happen if they're over 12 years old?
I wonder.
Let's find out.
Okay.
Blank, the brains of children aged 13 and older reacted more strongly when they heard a stranger's voice.
A stranger's voice, right? 好，题目意思是说，空格13岁以上孩童的大脑在听到陌生人的声音时，反应会较强烈。好，那么这题考我们转折词，我们就来看选项喽。Our options are
A, for this reason.
因此，由于这个原因。
B, in contrast.
表示说相比之下或者是相反的。
C, to sum up.
这就是来表达总之总结来说。
D, as a rule.
这表示说一般来说怎么样，通常怎么样。那在回答这个题目之前，我们当然要回头看一下课文前一句，它就有说这个12岁以下的孩童呢，他们大脑会听到妈妈的声音的时候会变得比较活跃嘛。好，那现在他接着又讲到说这个13岁以上的孩童。大脑对陌生人声音的反应会比较强烈，我们就知道他在对比12岁以下孩童跟13岁以上孩童，那这就有对照的感觉。我们要选有对照或比较含义的转折词，那就是 be in contrast， 就是相比之下、相反那种意思。
Okay.
And the correct sentence is
In contrast, the brains of children aged 13 and older reacted more strongly when they heard a stranger's voice. In other words, they just pretty much ignore their parents' voice, right?
They're not interested, or they are less interested in their mother's voice.
This, I wonder if this is parents in general or if it's just because of a mother. Because they said compared to a stranger. So you imagine the same would be true if it was a father's voice, right? I don't know.
Maybe so. Here's this vocabulary word, react.
To react.
What does it mean?
It means to behave or change in a particular way when something happens or something is said, etc. So for example, you could say, the mayor reacted angrily to the news. So something happens, like he hears the news, and he reacted. That's his action or behavior changes when he hears the news. To react.
Maybe it's about his rumor or something like that.
Probably, yeah. They probably said something bad about him.
When he heard the news and he got angry.
What? That's not true!
好，所以这个 react 这个动词就可以表达反应、回应、做出反应的那种意思咯。好，那我们要接着继续来看这个研究结果，发现，为什么两组孩童的状况会不一样呢？
Okay. The study's authors concluded that teenagers find strangers' voices more blank because teenagers' brains have begun prioritizing their social connections outside of the home.
题目意思是说，这个研究的作者们推断，青少年觉得陌生人的声音更空格，因为青少年大脑已开始优先考虑他们在家庭之外的社交关系。那补充一下，我们说 priority 就是优先考虑的事，那 prioritize 这个动词就是优先考虑咯。好，那这边考我们词组，我们来看选项。Our options are
A, worthy of attention.
就是值得注意的意思，我们可以用 be worthy of 加名词来表达值得什么什么的。
B, generous with praise.
就是不吝赞美，你要赞美别人都很慷慨大方的感觉，这样。
C, relevant to current times.
好，与当前时代有关。那我们说 be relevant to 什么什么，就是跟什么有关。
D, serious about communication.
对沟通是认真的。好，那青少年大脑已经开始优先考虑家庭之外的社交关系，这表示他们比较会去关注其他人事物嘛。所以语义上来看，应该就是说青少年觉得陌生人的声音更值得注意。答案就要选 A, worthy of attention. And the correct sentence is
The study's authors concluded that teenagers find strangers' voices more worthy of attention because teenagers' brains have begun prioritizing their social connections outside of the home. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting, and that makes a lot of sense,
It does
right?
make sense, right? You need to start interacting with the world. You need to go away from the nest.
Right. As a child, you need parents. You are dependent on them. But as you grow up, you start to develop your own independent life.
Go into society, you have to learn to socialize with your peers and with other people, right?
Yes. Okay, so continuing.
For mothers of teenagers, this phenomenon can be blank as their previously attentive children suddenly stop listening to a word they say.
好，所以题目意思就是说，对青少年的母亲来说，这种现象可能会空格，因为他们以前专心听话的孩子，突然连他们说的一个字都听不进去了。好
So true.
这边 previously 就是以前、先前，然后 attentive 是描述说是注意、专心的、关心、体贴的，所以 they're previously attentive children 就是说他们以前专心听话的孩子。那这边考我们形容词哦，来看选项。Our options are
A, reliable.
可信赖的、真实可信的、
B, accepted.
公认的、普遍被接受的、
C, occasional.
偶尔见货的、
D, frustrating.
令人挫折的。所以以前专心听话孩子，现在连一个字都听不进去，这妈妈应该会感到很挫折嘛。最适合答案就是 D, frustrating. So the correct sentence would be
For mothers of teenagers, this phenomenon can be frustrating as their previously attentive children suddenly stop listening to a word they say.
对，你想想看，有没有很多小朋友小时候一直念为什么为什么为什么为什么，然后
Yeah.
现在都不讲话了。
But when you were a teenager, you did the same thing. So, you can still relate. Everybody goes through this to their
Right.
parents. So if you're a parent now, when you were a teenager, you did this to your parents too. It's a cycle, right?
It's a cycle. Okay, here we got this vocabulary word, phenomenon.
A phenomenon.
好难的字哦。
Phenomenon. So it just means something that exists and can be seen, felt, tasted, etc. And it's especially something that's a little bit unusual or interesting, or we don't quite totally understand that thing yet.
Right.
Right?
好，这个字就是现象的意思。然后老师，你可以再念一次吗？这个单字。
Phenomenon or phenomena? Phenomena.
我刚刚
Phenomena.
觉
Phenomena. English.
我刚刚觉得这个字可以听起来很像 phenomenon， 那么难，好难的感觉 phenomenon。
Right.
然后呢，它的复数就是 phenomena，
Phenomena
后面改成 a。好，那我们来看一个例句喽。
Example, I saw an unusual phenomenon in the sky.
All right， 就是异常的现象 ，right？ 好，感觉天有异象这样。OK，so let's continue reading.
As the study shows, however, mothers shouldn't take it personally. Teenage brains are simply wired differently. And it's not the teenager's fault, it's their brain. They don't really have much of a choice.
这个用法好特
The
别哦。
wires are
Be
just
wire 好像被
different.
线路被接的不一样这样子。
right?
好，我们先说一下，如果我们说 take 什么什么 personally， 就是说认为这是针对自己，把什么是看作是针对个人，所以我们说 don't take it personally， 就是说啊，你不要当做是在针对你这样子。
Right.
好，那 wire 在这边是天生已经决定，就是确定，好像线路早就接好了。
Yep. Yeah, there's no choice. You have no choice.
Right.
It's just the wires in your brain.
Right. So we can say everyone's brain is wired differently. 每个人大脑运作方式就不一样。
True.
All right. So that's it for today.
Okay, well, so hopefully we've rewired your brains and now you understand a little bit more.
And mommy, don't worry too much about this.
It's natural. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's just natural. All right. I'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Becoming less interested in one's parents and more interested in other people is a natural part of growing up. But what causes this behavioral shift? Scientists at Stanford University have recently discovered one way that the brain encourages this change. Scientists monitored the brains of a group of young people while their mothers read out several nonsense words. Then they did the same thing, but with strangers reading the words instead. The brains of children aged 12 and under became highly active at the sound of their mothers' voices. In contrast, the brains of children aged 13 and older reacted more strongly when they heard a stranger's voice. The study's authors concluded that teenagers find strangers' voices more worthy of attention because teenagers' brains have begun prioritizing their social connections outside of the home. For mothers of teenagers, this phenomenon can be frustrating as their previously attentive children suddenly stop listening to a word they say. As the study shows, however, mothers shouldn't take it personally. Teenage brains are simply wired differently.
As long as it's fresh, seafood doesn't need too much seasoning. By using just a simple cooking method, you can keep the fresh seafood flavor. Seaside Cottage is located on Wenhua Road. Though the shop is not big, it's very special. The wooden stall creates a relaxed atmosphere and makes you feel as if you're really at the seaside. Having been open for 5 years, Seaside Cottage is one of the most famous stalls in Fengjia night market. Before the opening time every day, there are already customers lining up. Seaside Cottage mainly sells fresh clams. They use the simplest way to cook the clams, bringing out their original flavor. Without much seasoning, customers are able to savor the freshness and sweetness of this seafood. According to the owner, the clams used in the store are all raised on his own farm and harvested daily so their freshness can be guaranteed. The restaurant offers 5 flavors of dry-fried clams: original, black garlic, goji berry, dried ginger, and black pepper. However, the owner recommends that first-time visitors try the original flavor so that they can have a taste of the fresh clams in their purest form first.